I'm not sure if you see my social media, but I posted the other day about a man that actually did follow me back to my house, and it was really creepy, and he ended up trying to grab me. And yeah, the whole thing was very scary, so I thought I would make a video about all the creepy experiences I've had in Japan up until now. There have been quite a lot, and I have talked about quite a few of them on this channel, and there are also some I haven't talked about yet, and I have some that might happen to my friends. So I think it's good to have a very open conversation about this. One thing is that when something like this happens to me, people usually ask what the nationality was of the person that did it. But in my experience, and this is just my personal experience in Japan, a lot of the time has actually been foreign men. So I really don't like it when people's knee-jerk reaction is to say that like, oh well, like, are Japanese guys creepy? Or like, I heard that Japanese guys are creepy. I think it really doesn't matter about race or nationality. I feel like it's just something that happens everywhere and it sucks. Okay, so on to the other day. It was actually kind of a sucky week in general for me because I had to file my visa document. So I had to spend a whole day getting the documents I needed for my visa, and then another day filing my visa. But the day I found my visa, I thought I was really lucky because this process can honestly take hours. Like when you get to the visa office and you submit your documents, sometimes it can take like hours before your number is called, and you know, it's normally like a whole day activity. But on this day, for some reason, I was in and out of the visa office. I think it's because recently they introduced an online system where you can apply online. So I think actually it made it so less people actually go and do it physically at the office. So yeah, honestly, great. I finished with the visa office and I wanted to celebrate by making a little dessert. And the things that I wanted for dessert are from a supermarket that's a little bit far from my house. It's like all the way on the other side of the station. So I got to my home station and I went to the supermarket. But on the way there, I noticed that there was like a foreign man sitting on the bench just on his phone. I tend to check if there's foreigners. Like, it's just curiosity because where I live there actually aren't that many foreigners, and there are a few that I recognize. Like, we see each other now and then and you give each other like the gaijin nod or whatever. But yeah, this guy was just on his phone and he was just like a normal guy. He was like white passing. He was wearing like a dark blue fedora and a dark blue shirt, and he had a beard. He was quite small. I think he was just a little bit taller than me, and not really like, nothing about him really stood out. But anyways, he was on his phone and I noted it, and I went to the supermarket. I picked up all the ingredients for my dessert and I left, and I had to cross over the station, and I had to go like this really, like, getting to my house is like, it's kind of like a trek. It's like a lot of like small streets and like you have to go up a lot, so like it's not somewhere where a lot of people go. And there are a lot of people that live around where I live, but honestly they're mostly like old Japanese people. So after walking for about 15 minutes, I noticed that there was someone walking directly behind me, which is a little bit weird because there was like almost no one around. So I looked back and I noticed that it was the guy I saw sitting on the bench. And this kind of shocked me because the chances of this person having to come all of this way is pretty slim. Like, it would be a huge coincidence if this guy was actually coming all the way up to where I was. So my thing is, I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't want to immediately be like, oh, this person's stalking me or stuff like that. So I slowed down a bit to see what would happen, and as I slowed down, he also slowed down and tried to keep a safe pace between us, but not past me. That freaked me out a little bit, so I decided to cross over the street and pretend to get something out of the vending machine, just assess the situation. And I crossed over, and as I did that, he's just stopped and pretending to be on his phone and just watched me. And I was like, okay, so this is going to be a problem. Like, this is actually becoming a problem. And the annoying thing is I had like all these groceries, so I just picked up my stuff and I went in the opposite direction. So I did a U-turn, mainly because we're near my house, and if this guy is following me, I just don't want him to know where I live. So, and we walk past, and the road that I came up, I actually just passed it and I went straight. So at this point I was in a little bit unfamiliar territory, and the guy started picking up his pace. I'm like, oh my god. So I started to freak out actually, and then I noted that there was a side street on the left coming up, And where I live, there's like a neighborhood watch, and there's tons of old ladies, like they're always watching, so it is relatively safe. And one of the old ladies I hang out with a lot, I realized I could just go to her house. So I thought if I popped down this street, I might be able to walk all the way down the road and make it to her house. I popped down the street, I got almost to the end, and I realized that it was a dead end. And I turned around, and the guy was there, and he was really, really close to me. It was like such a jump scare. It was really, really scary. As I turned around, we both kind of just like looked at each other, and then he came up to me really, really close, and he just started to, like, just a barrage of questions. He just started interviewing me, like, where are you from? What are you doing here? Blah, 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 blah. I said I was from America, and I said that I was meeting up with my husband, and we were going to his grandma's house, which is in the area. And yeah, so I started to leave, and he was just following me and asking me questions. Some of them I answered, some of them I wasn't. I just had my phone, so I just pretended to be on my phone. I noticed, because he got really close to me, that he did actually smell like alcohol. And at one point he went to grab me, and I just knocked him away. And he said, oh, if you're lost, I can help you. And I said, it's okay, I don't need any help, and I left. And as I turned the corner and left, I assumed that he got a message, so I got out my phone and I started texting someone. And then he came up to me again, like, oh my god. And I said, like, I'm sorry, what do you want? And he said, oh, you know, he's like, I see you're looking for something. Are you looking for me? And I'm like, bro, I literally just told you I was married, and I'm not looking for you. Please leave me alone. And he's like, I'll always be waiting for you, baby. And like all this really creepy stuff about him waiting for me or him finding me. It was creepy, I don't know. And then like at this point, I'm power walking, he's power walking, and we get to where the road splits off. We're back by my house again. So as I'm walking up, I faint, I'm gonna go down one more street, and I turn. He goes up that street, I turn, and luckily my house is really, really hard to find. It's down like this very like small side street. A lot of people miss it, and also like the Amazon guy has to call me like every other day, because the Amazon guy always can't find my address. So I slipped in, got out my key cards, opened my door, run in my house, closed the door, and I was pretty sure that he didn't see which house I went into. And then I went to, we have like a TV camera thing. It's on the wall, and you have like a little camera on the outside of your door. I checked it, and I could see him in the distance up the road, just like walking around looking confused, looking for me. I stayed in my house, I turned off the lights even though it was daytime, and then closed the curtains, and I just waited for him to leave. It's just like so disappointing and just such a pain in the ass now, because now when I've been going back to my house, I just get really nervous, and I'm looking over my shoulder to see if there's anyone following me. But yeah, so this guy, people ask me his nationality. I'm not sure. He was white passing, but he did have like maybe a Middle Eastern accent, so honestly I'm not sure, I couldn't tell you. Also don't I don't think it's good to like just guess people's nationalities. But yeah, it's been a few days and I haven't seen him since, so maybe I won't see him again. Like, I bumped into him on the other side of the station, so I think that he's over that side, so I think I'm not gonna see him again, hopefully. The whole thing was honestly pretty scary. I'm pretty confident in myself to get myself out of situations, and I've been in a lot of situations like this, so I can handle myself pretty well, but it's always a little bit scary. And then one of the most annoying things was as well is that I posted about this on my Instagram and also on Twitter, and honestly, like, I got like a lot of people were so nice. I was really, really surprised with like how many lovely messages I got, but there was also just like the really, really like knuckle dragging, drooling comments that just really bothered me. Like, a lot of people comment stuff like, oh, you should take a knife with you, or you should take pepper spray. And I had to remind everyone that like pepper spray is illegal in Japan. It's not illegal to carry it if you have a reason, like if you're fighting off a bear or something. I'm obviously, like, this is Tokyo, I'm obviously not gonna, I don't have it to fight a bear, so like, please don't suggest people to do things that are illegal. And also just like carrying a knife as a foreigner is just not a good idea. Like, probably don't do that. And again, when you're in those kind of situations, when you start spraying people with stuff or like trying to stab people, that's when the danger level elevates. Like, if you're in a situation like that, the best thing to do is just de-escalate and leave. Another annoying thing is, like, some of the comments are like, why didn't you go to a call-ban, like a police box, or why didn't you go to a convenience store? It's like, if there was a police box or a convenience store, obviously I would have gone there. There was not, therefore I didn't. So yeah, when people are saying something bad that happened to them, it's probably not a good idea to like immediately offer like really obvious advice, or just ask why didn't they do something. Like, a lot of people ask me why I didn't take his picture. It's like, I was just trying to not like get kidnapped. That was, in that moment, that was the least of my problems. And I think particularly because Japanese phones have like this camera sound when you take a picture, unless you use some kind of app, which would have been it would have taken me too long to open the app. So it's like, I don't want him to see me take a picture of him and then get really, really angry, because that's going to elevate the threat level. So just stuff like that. People are very well meaning, but I think particularly when you're speaking to someone about something somewhat traumatic that happened to them, maybe just be a little bit more careful. So yeah, that was that one. There have been a few things that happened to me like that in Tokyo. It really reminded me of when I used to live in Shinjuku with my roommate, who was a British girl, and we went to the convenience store that was, again, like probably like 15 minutes from our house. We went to a little bit of a far one, and then I noticed there was a guy that walked past the convenience, saw us, and then came in. But I was too busy buying a Nikkeman, so I kind of like didn't even, like, after that I just stopped paying attention. Then we got our stuff, we walked back to our apartment, and it was kind of like this, like, again, it was kind of like a really, really weird route. We got into our apartment building, we went up the stairs, and when my friend went to put the key in the door, I turned around and it was the guy from the combini, and he was just there, and his knob was out, just like it was just like his knob was just out, and it was just like flopping around, and we were just really, really confused. Obviously it freaked us out a bit, so we just went in our door and closed the door, and I think he just stood outside motionless for a while, and then he left. Another thing people ask is, like, in these kind of situations, should I contact the police? I think that, like, you should, if you really do think you're in danger, if the person's gonna come back, because sometimes what the police will do is that they'll patrol around your house. My friend had her underwear repeatedly stolen from her washing line, and she went to the koban and she told the police, and for the next couple of weeks the police would go around in their car around the neighborhood and check for anyone suspicious, and it honestly did make her feel much better. Actually last year something also kind of weird happened to me. This one was a Japanese guy. I was waiting at the station in the morning to go to work, and it was like 8 or 9 a.m. so it was pretty early, and I had my earphones in, so I wasn't really all there, and I was waiting for the train, and I just felt someone stroke my hair from the top to the bottom, like you would stroke like a dog, and it felt so weird. And as I just turned around and saw who it was, and it was just a Japanese guy, and I don't know, he would just look like a regular Japanese salaryman. He was wearing like a leather jacket, and I just saw him run down the platform, and I thought, like, should I don't know, like, should I do something? I don't know what I should do. Like, I told the train staff at the other side, but again, like, I'm on the way to work, so I can't really spend so much time, and when you start reporting stuff, it does take a long time. So a lot of these creeps are banking on people not wanting to be late for work or school. So yeah, that's why generally people target people on the train. And then I think it was 2 years ago, me and my friend went to this cafe in Harajuku. It's called Cookie Time, and it sells cookies, and the cookies are pretty good actually. They do like milkshakes and stuff, and it's very much like a childish vibe. There's like everything super colorful, and they have all like these monster mascots. It's very like Harajuku. Anyways, we went there, we got ourselves some cookies and milkshakes, and there's like some standing seating outside, so you can go and just like drink your milkshake outside. So we were there. We were just like chatting and talking, so we weren't really paying much attention. And then I noticed next to where we were standing is kind of like, I don't know, like a panel with space underneath, and I saw someone's little hand with an iPhone slide under the panel and try to get like an upskirt picture of my friend. I was so like surprised, and it's only because like the angle I was at, I could see it, but like most other angles, I don't think you'd be able to see this. So I was like, what the fuck? And we went around, and there was a man with his phone just taking upskirt pictures of people. We started shouting at him, and then he went upstairs. This guy was like, I think he was Nepalese, just because he was like a Nepalese restaurant, and I guess he was working, because he went up there and he stood on the balcony of this Nepalese restaurant, and he was just like jacking off, like unashamedly, in the middle of Harajuku, just like jacking off, like over his pants or whatever. So we were like, what the hell? After that, we went into cookie time. We alerted the manager or owner, who was this man, and I gave him my email, and I emailed him all the pictures of the guy, and we talked a little bit, and then the guy ended up not responding after a while. So I don't know if this guy actually went to the police or not. I really hope so, because as I mentioned to the manager, like, it's a little bit concerning, because this place is mostly for like teenage girls. Like, a lot of teenage girls come here, and there's a guy next door taking upskirt pictures of them. So yeah, I really sincerely hope that that guy went to the police, because we were going to, but then the guy said that he would handle it, which, like, this is one of my biggest regrets. I wish that I had actually reported it myself, but again, you know, like, that's another thing. Like, in that kind of situation, sometimes you don't always know what to do. That was weird, honestly. So like, up until this point, like, I think in general the ratio of creepy things that have happened to me have probably been like 50% Japanese, 50% foreign. So yeah. And working as an English teacher, of course you're gonna have creepy students, because meeting such like a large amount of people, particularly where you're in a closed space and you're talking to them, people will start forming attachments to you. I think it's kind of like, sometimes it's just to be expected. You just have to be very careful. One time, I think I've been pretty lucky. Like, the whole time I've been a teacher, I haven't really had that many creepy students, but one time I was asked to cover for a different school, and it was in Nakano. So I went there, and it was my first time and last time at that school. So I went there and I taught the students, and the last one was this kind of like youngish Japanese guy. I guess he was like 24 maybe, and he was just like a salaryman. I taught the lesson, and there wasn't anything creepy about him. But then he was the last guy, so he left. I packed up my stuff, I cleaned, I chatted with the staff a bit, and then when I left, I stepped outside and I bumped into someone really hard, and honestly it was like a proper bonk. I've never done that in Japan, so it was like a little bit strange. And I noticed it was my last student, and he was like, oh, like, fancy seeing you here. And I'm like, you literally just saw me here at my work. And I'm like, why are you still here? Like, your class ended like 30 minutes ago. But anyways, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go home. Do you want to walk to the station together? And I couldn't, like, I was like, maybe I should just say no and then walk away and then come back later. But then, like, I'm like, no, I'm just so tired, I just want to go home. I'm like, okay, sure. So we walked to the station, and he's just like asking me loads of questions and like trying to find out where I live. So I'm not obviously gonna tell him, so I gave him like really vague answers. And then we get to the train station, and he asked me what line I'm on, and I told him, and he said, oh yeah, that's my line as well. And I'm like, it was fine, because it's like a really popular line, so I feel like it's not like, you know, it wasn't like too big of a deal if I told him. So anyways, we get on the train, and I decided to get off a stop before my mum, because I don't want this guy to know which stop I am. So we get there, and he's like, what stop are you? I'm like, this one. He's like, oh, me too. I'm like, oh my god, Jesus Christ. So we get off the train, and then I was like, oh, actually I'm gonna go to the supermarket before I go home. So yeah, it's been real peace. And then he's like, oh, actually I need to go to the supermarket too. And I'm like, bro, no. And I kind of just like sped off and like ran into the supermarket and like run next to like the cold meat counter and waited for him to get lost and leave me alone. So yeah, that is something that happened. And again, like, when you look back at this, I'm like, how creepy was it? Like, I don't really know. The thing is like, we should always be careful, because like this guy, it could turn into like something a lot worse. You never know. I really recommend always being cautious, because honestly, you never know. One of the last ones that happened to me was me and my Japanese friends were in Shibuya and we were taking Purikura, and when we were taking Puri in the booth, I noticed that there was someone like outside just wandering around, and when we got outside the booth and we're waiting for our stickers, a guy was filming up our skirts with his phone, and I turned around and I was like, what the fuck? And again, it's like a small foreign guy. This guy was like shorter than me and like filmed up my skirt, and I remember kicking his phone, and like he grabbed it and he caught his phone, and then I like chased him and like he ran out of the store, and then again we went afterwards and we informed the koban, and it's just like wild. And my theory for this is like why I encounter so many foreign guys doing this is because I think that like a lot of these guys probably do watch Japanese porn and assume that this is what Japan is like, and they come here thinking that these things are legal and they can do it. So yeah, I think this is ultimately like well, I think partially this is because of porn culture that guys are like this, but also it's just like people just be creepy, so yeah. Compared to my hometown, Japan has been very, very safe, but I think it's just it depends where you're from. A lot of people I know think that Japan is very, very dangerous because their hometowns are very, very safe. So it's very much relative to who you are as a person, and just like some people are just unlucky. Like I've had a lot of friends that have had really horrible things happen to them here, and then a lot of people that have lived here for 10 years had nothing happen to them. So I think it's also just about luck. I just recommend always being aware of your surroundings. If something truly bad happens to you, please tell the police. People always ask me like how helpful the police are here, and as I mentioned before, with my friend whose underwear is stolen, sometimes they are very helpful, but then I had a friend whose apartment was broken into, and when she told the policeman, he said, oh, it's because your boobs are so big. So again, like in every country there's going to be good interactions with the police and bad interactions, and it's just like everything in life is just kind of like a lottery. So yeah, let me know your if you've had any experiences like this, and if you've had any in Japan. For me personally, I've had a lot of experiences like this, but it hasn't really colored my view of Japan, again because my hometown was so dangerous. And yeah, I even now I feel like Japan's very safe, and I do feel safe here, but I think it's always important, no matter where you are, to always be aware of your surroundings and always just honestly prepare for the worst. This week honestly was kind of shitty, especially after what happened with the guy that tried to grab me, but I'm honestly doing my best to not let it make me anxious, because I did start to get anxious when I started coming home, and I don't want this guy to have that kind of power over me. And a lot of people assume that he's a stalker and he's gonna stalk me, he's gonna come back. Honestly, I just believe it's just like some drunk guy. This guy probably doesn't even remember this interaction. So yeah, not gonna let this guy have any power over me, and I'm just gonna forget about it. But anyways, everyone, I hope nothing like this ever happens to you. I hope that you stay safe, and especially don't let this story make you feel like you shouldn't come to Japan. Japan is honestly very, very safe, and there's dickheads in every country. However, sometimes I feel like Japan has really unique crime. I remember when I used to live in Saitama, there was this guy who used to go around on a bicycle and flick mayonnaise at women from a jar on a spoon. That one was kind of unique. And then there was that guy that would, he had a razor and he would cut women's pantyhose on the train. So yeah, maybe that part is a little bit unique to Japan actually. So anyways, thank you for watching, and as always, please subscribe.